Probably heard a lot of conflicting advice about what it means to be successful. So it can be tough to know what really matters. And it's easy to get bogged down in all the conflicting advice that's out there, depending on who you're listening to and who you follow. So, my question to you is, what does it mean to be successful, and how do you achieve success? I decided to break it down in today's video and give you what I believe are the 5 pillars to help you define success on your terms and show you how to achieve it. Now, these 5 essential pillars will guide you every step along the way. Hi, my name is Joyce Lehman, and I help coaches, creatives, and entrepreneurs create a strong brand foundation so that they can stand out online with their unique message, sell more services, and create a bigger impact without the overwhelm. And today, we really want to dive into what it means to be successful. Now, as always, I'm going to be flying through my lives pretty quick. I always try to give as much as I can in a short amount of time as possible. So I want to pop in here and say, if you want the show notes for this particular episode, then drop the word show notes in the chat and we will make sure and get them to you after the live is done. Now, for those who are new to watching my weekly show, I go live on multiple platforms. I love engaging people when you're here live. So if you are catching this live, let me know where you're coming in from. And if by chance, then post #replay. So that way I can go back and make sure that I engage with you and have conversations. And of course, answer any questions. Those always happen after the fact. And yes, you can slide into DMs and send me a direct message as well. Love having those conversations. All right. So, depending on which guru you follow, there can be 4, 5, 6, 7 different pillars to creating an optimal business. I want to flip that script today because to me, when you define success, this is about defining success on your terms, not what somebody else is telling that you need to do. And it's also making sure that you're not people pleasing, which will burn you out in your business faster than anything. And I always make sure that I have my show notes so I can stay on track because anybody that knows me in my keynote years, you always had a certain amount of time to get a message across that I want to make sure that I am concise for you all. So, success is a difficult topic to define. And we've heard about things like work ethic, say that 10 times fast and alive, perseverance and determination. But going back to, I want to give you core pillars. So the first one is create a clear vision of what success means for you. So number one, create a clear vision of what success means for you. And I know when I start working with my clients that I ask them this, and not everybody has answered this question. So if you have not done that, take time. It is so important. So all too often we see people, you see, well-known folks that are out online that they're chasing. It could be a title, it could be money, it just could be the fame for the sake of chasing fame. And they are total train wrecks. So while that might be somebody's version of success, if your life is a train wreck, then how can you truly say that you have achieved success? So that goes back to when you define what your core purpose is and your happiness, it's what truly drives you, makes you happy. It's how you wake up every day and you absolutely love what you do, despite occasional tech challenges, despite the things that we have to learn, or even setbacks, as you know, that happens. Then that's how you can define success on your terms. So what I want you to do is take a piece of paper. As I said, drop the word show notes because I'm going to give you some questions to ask and take 15 minutes to go through and answer these. It's so important. So the first one is what makes me happy? So what makes me happy? Number 2 is where have I already been successful in my life? When you ask yourself this question, you can go back and revisit prior things that you've accomplished. Here's the point on that. don't judge. All too often, we judge too quickly and we're like, well, that wasn't a good enough win. It wasn't, whoops, let's type that again. So that wasn't a big enough win. It was only a small thing. Write down things that you've already accomplished where you've been successful. If you have a new offer, you've never created an offer before, and now you've created an offer, that's successful. All too often, we try to attach money to an accomplishment when that doesn't necessarily define success for you. Number 3, what lessons have I learned from those experiences? So, number 3, what lessons have I learned from those experiences? Number 4, what was not successful and what did I learn? This is another point that I want to stop you, because sometimes when you say, well, I haven't been successful, and you dive into failures, it takes your mind down that negativity bias rabbit hole. That's not the point. I always believe there are great lessons learned despite the things that are total, that totally go wrong in any way, shape, or form, because if you learn from them, it's always a great lesson. Who do I admire and why? That's the next question that you want to ask yourself. It's so important. I look at the individuals that are in my circle of influence, and I will tell you, as a former wallflower in the world of business networking, I never would have imagined the people that I am so blessed to have in my life. Did they just happen to come to me? No, I had to go out and ask. I had to go out and start cultivating those relationships, and it took getting outside of my comfort zone. So, who do you admire and why? And I'll nudge you a little bit. Then, how well do you know them? And if you don't know them, make that connection. So important. All right. What truly matters? This is another great question to ask yourself as you're defining success. Say that 10 times fast. So, what truly matters is you're defining success on your terms. And then, what do you want to be remembered for? This is one hit me right between the eyes. It was 20 years ago. A friend of mine that I'd known for almost 10 years was killed in a car wreck. And I remember sitting at her memorial service that day. And at the time, I had a sales role. I had a horse that I showed. I could tell you what was on television every night of the week. I had this set routine. And I watched this funeral home just overflowing for Mary Ann's memorial service. And it was that day when I said, not quite sure. I love my sales role. I don't know if this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, but I did know that I wanted to be remembered for making a difference. So, as I said, go through these and I'll have them in the show notes, but ask those first, because that's going to help you to define success on your terms. Pillar number 2 is develop a clear understanding of your time, money, and resources. Because in order to achieve what you vision for success, then you need to know time, money, and resources to be allocated towards this. You need to be realistic as far as putting in the effort. And all too often, I see this disconnect between what somebody dreams and where they're at right now and what they're able to devote to building their business and life that they love. And so trying to accomplish too much in a very short amount of time, or setting these goals, and I'm all about creating bold goals. But when you say, oh my gosh, I want to achieve $2 million my first year in business, and you have nothing in place, then it's a pretty big disconnect. And so unless you're willing to pay somebody to do everything for you, and I am a great example when I started my business back in 2008 of hiring people that I thought were experts, and it was my $23,000 mistake. So figuring out time, money, and resources that you can allocate to your business is extremely important. So the first thing, get clear on the amount of time that you really have to devote your business. So if this is a full-time gig, that's great. I have clients that this is their only business, but one is retired. She doesn't want to spend 40 hours a week. She wants to spend less than 10 hours a week because she's also a music teacher. And so as she's retired, she's had these clients for years. Wellness coaching business is where she's going. So her success is 10 hours a week vision for her business. Now she knows, because she's brand new in launching this, that it's going to take more time to get it going. So, not saying 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week. You determine the amount of time based on where you're at, but know that that's important to define. Also, the second step, understanding where your money is best spent. As I said, huge mistake for me back in 2008 when I launched my business. I hired experts who I thought could help me. And in turn, what happened? I spent $13,000 on a website, included a 2-camera video shoot because I was going after keynotes, national audiences as a speaker. And it was one of those things, the website did not convert. It didn't do what it needed to do. Very expensive lessons. So you don't always have to spend a ton of money to accomplish what you want. You need to align yourself with the right people who can guide you in the process so you're spending your money and time wisely. Also, this could be something too that as you continue to grow in your business, one of the things that I preach to my clients that I had to learn the lesson myself is, yes, I wanted to learn because of the financial mistakes that I had at the beginning, but I also know that there are things that I can easily outsource to somebody else to do. So it's a different mindset. If you're insisting that you DIY everything forever, it's going to take you a lot longer, especially at the rate that things change online. You want to have an understanding, but then if you outsource, and typically a VA and a social media manager are two great roles that you can start outsourcing. So that way you can focus your time on your highest priority activities that actually generate revenue. So really important. So think about where your money's best spent. Third, getting clear about the resources that you have at your disposal. So this is getting clear and honest with yourself about the resources that you already have. It's the knowledge that you already have and where you need to learn, who can help you, and yes, those times where you need to invest. This is why I'm a huge believer in investing in coaching programs. I have been working with high-level coaches. The money I have invested in my business over the last couple of years since the pandemic shifted and my business model, I went from one-on-one to group and a whole other litany of things. It's because I wanted to shorten my learning curve and get to my end result faster, which is a benefit for my clients. And guess what? They always get to benefit from my expertise of my investments with my coaches. So understanding, like I said, your resources and where you need to invest time and money. So you don't have to do everything. Sometimes when you start, and depending on your budget, you do, but delegation is huge and giving up control. I know that's hard. I used to be that control person, but now I understand where my time is best spent and where I shine, living in my zone of genius. All right. Number 3, using planning to your advantage. I have had several clients that I've talked to. In fact, I have people in my Facebook group and other folks I've just been connecting with online, and they immediately say, I'm a horrible planner. I'm horrible at setting goals. Okay, I get that. At one time, I used to be as well. But then when I realized the amount of time that I was wasting because I was constantly reacting instead of being proactive and creating a plan. So when you're thinking about your vision and these pillars, I'm not necessarily talking about what you're going to do tomorrow. What I want you to be thinking about is, what is your long-term plan? What is your vision for your life? My significant other, who I have been with for several years now, on our second date, he asked me what my 5-year plan was. I had never, ever had a guy ask me what my plan was before. And I so appreciated the fact that Mark, that entrepreneur at heart, had businesses from the time, he was 10, 11 years old. The reason he does as well as he does now is he revisits his vision, his long-term vision. He also wanted to know where I was going in my business and what I wanted to do at some point, when I retire, and, where we're at, so we could see if we were on the same path. So this is a great question, not just to ask yourself, but if you have that significant other, whether you're dating somebody, you're married, a business partner too, it's like, what is that vision? What does that long-term vision look like? Now, to be honest, did I have it mapped out every single the way on a piece of paper over the next 5 years? No. But I could tell Mark where I was at, on average, the number of hours I wanted to put in. I knew the number of clients that I could take on based on the numbers that I had run, but I didn't have that rock solid business plan written down. But I knew it enough. And I also go back and tweak that. And I look every 90 days. So understanding about that. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel to become a proactive planner. It's not necessary. But it is important to sit down and start thinking about, what do you want your business to look like in 6 months, in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years? As we know, pandemics happen and things completely have to shift, but it's important to get that down. So one of my favorite books, I'm all about books and resources, is the 12-week year. So this actually takes a year, and it was going to break it down into 90-day segments. The research that these guys have done with thousands of companies show that when you break your year down into 90 days, you actually get more accomplished, because what happens is we tend to wait until October, November, December and scramble to meet goals versus why not do it every 90 days? I love the process. I listened to the audio and then I went and downloaded, or I got the workbook from them. I didn't download it, I bought it. So 12-week year is great. And then of course, James Clear and his book on habits, phenomenal. So that breaks it down even more. So 2 books I recommend: 12-week year, and then James Clear with Atomic Habits. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Okay. And I know setting goals, you think, well, isn't that common sense? And doesn't everybody do that? You'd be surprised how many people I've talked to that don't set goals. So make sure that you do that as a part of your process, and know that your goals, they should excite you. They should get you to want to jump out of bed in the morning. This is part of planning of, if it doesn't happen, things are going to happen in life, but your business should excite you. So that's why thinking about your vision is so important. All right. Pillar 4, your mindset. Your greatest advantage is your own mind. I love these stats, I guess we'll call them. So at age 23, I did not know this. I found these. Oprah had just been fired from her first broadcasting job at age 23. At age 30, if you've heard of BuzzFeed and the Huffington Post, Jonah Peretti was teaching middle schoolers at age 30 before founding his billion-dollar media company. He was a teacher. Things can always change. It doesn't have to happen on our timeline. At 50 was when Julia Child wrote her first cookbook. At 50. I think I wanted to be a teacher when I was a kid. That was the very first thing I said. And then I wanted to be a vet. And I worked for a vet and realized didn't want to be a vet. And now I look at that vision that I had as a child. I am a teacher. I just do it differently. And I didn't figure it out until I was in my 40s. I was in sales my entire career. So think about, we don't have to define success and think that we hit it on a timeline. And then this is one that I didn't know either. Colonel Sanders at 62, Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's when his business finally succeeded, at 62. So success does not have a deadline. As I said, all too often we get caught up in somebody else's version of success instead of defining it on our terms. So this is where you want to stay flexible and be willing to course correct when needed. We all had to do it a couple of years ago. Yes, we're getting out of the pandemic slowly but surely, but still things have that ability to shift. So flexibility is key, and that's where your mindset comes into play. So successful people know that they can adapt when things don't go as planned. It's this growth mindset that they're willing to adapt and flex. I used to be very specific about my schedule had to go a certain way. Everything had to go a certain way. I was Sheldon Cooper on the couch. It caused me a ton of stress, and it also did not get me where I wanted to be. I had to shift my mindset. Another point on this, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. My TEDx talk in 2013 was called There to Here is Just Another Leap. And it was all about the comfort zones in our subconscious that can literally stop us from achieving what we want. Or when you get comfortable being uncomfortable, they can help you achieve far more than you ever imagined. So it is scary, but worth it when you open yourself up to growth. And finally, pillar number 5, build relationships. We don't go through life alone. And one of the most important things that you can do is build relationships. This is something I've been teaching to my little. I'm a big for big brothers, big sisters. And when we were matched at 16, it's teaching her even at that age to start building relationships. So this is where you have a supportive network, people who believe in your vision. By the way, they can also hold you accountable. You might not always like what you hear, but that's what having that great support network. So more relationships, the better is not the motto. I want you to focus on quality, not quantity. Focus on quality, not quantity when it comes to relationships. Go outside your immediate circle of influence. Now, I totally get it. If you're an introvert, we tend to stay within that core group. I met my 4 closest friends at business events, and I made the greatest connection in my entire life. And it was a personal connection, but I made it because I had met a gentleman in business. So this is where go outside your immediate circle of influence. I know, when folks are talking about sales, that they want to align themselves with, only the people that can help them. When it comes to your business, you never know. Your best relationships can happen in the least likely places. All right, here's a big one. My friend Bob Berg, who wrote The Go Giver, taught me this. Give more than you expect to receive. It's that go giver philosophy that when you give first, yes, it will come back. And then be generous with your time and your time, your knowledge, and your willingness to help others. It's not to say you're going to give away free coaching advice or give your business services away, but know that when you give that reciprocity, it does come back and it is so worth it. All right. So successful people know they cannot do it alone, and they're willing to take time to create and nurture relationships. So make sure that you are doing that in your visioning process. All right. So pillar number 1, I want to recap these. So create a clear vision of what success means for you. I have gone super, super, super fast. Number 2 is develop a clear understanding of time, money, and resources that you have to devote. 3 is use planning to your advantage. 4, your mindset. That can make such a huge difference in achieving the vision that you have for your life. And then finally, 5 is building relationships. I have alluded to this before, but the good news is defining success, there's 2 great things. There is no timeline for this. A lot of people do. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to start. So don't put that timeline limit on yourself. I just mentioned Colonel Sanders at 62. Crazy, but look at what he did with his business. And you get to write your definition of success. Don't follow the other folks, don't follow the herd. You define it, and that's what these pillars are here to help you do. Success is unique to us because we all have our own unique mix of talents, experience, expertise, life experiences that are in there. So that's why every one of our visions should be individual to us. And every single day, more people are waking up knowing that they can be of service through value in the world and their gifts and life experiences to others. So success is not a straight line. There's going to be ups and downs, but make sure that you take time. As I said, if you drop the word success, I will send you the show notes. I've given you a lot to digest. And yes, probably going to take you at least an hour to go through and answer the questions that I have given you during this live, but it is so important. So drop the word success below. And make sure that if you want to get additional information, the show notes will be, I'll send the show notes. There'll also be a replay with the video attached because some people I know they like to read and write and other people are auditory learners. So we've got that. But other than that, I appreciate your time showing up. I look forward to seeing you next week.